Hi, welcome to another edition of We Are Broomfield Community Spotlights. I'm your host, Sam Taylor, and today we're coming to you from the Crescent Grange of Broomfield, and I'll be talking about some of the programs. Right now, I'm with Marcy Heiser. How are you today, Marcy?
Good, good.
So tell me a little bit about the Crescent Grange. I know when I first heard of the Grange, I always heard it's the building, the white building over there. But
Right,
the Grange is more than just a building.
Yes, it's actually a national organization. We are the local chapter, you could call it. We call it subordinate. That's the lingo of the Grange. But the Grange was started nationally 150 years ago. And it started in Washington, D.C. This was right after the Civil War, 1867. And the farmers all over the country needed help. And so our 7 founders cooked up this idea of having a fraternal organization for farm families. At that time, fraternal organizations were all the rage, you see. And so maybe not so much now, but community action, working together has never gone out of style. So it started, and I think there was a Colorado Grange in the early 70s, 1870s. So it caught on rather quickly. What happened was then each town or county might have their own local or subordinate Grange. And probably in the beginning they didn't have their own building, but we were lucky. This particular local Grange got its charter, it's in the case over there, in 1898, but the building was built and first used in 1916.
So this building right here is over 100 years old.
It is.
It's in pretty good shape.
Well, we've had some fix-up. It needs quite a bit more, but we're grateful that we've gotten grants and we've got some new members, because there's continual rollover, as there are in most volunteer associations. And we have some dynamite people now and a garden that is so attractive to so many people. I know that's why I joined 9 years ago.
Well, we'll get into the garden in a little bit. This building here, you said, was built in 1916.
On land given by none other than Adolf Zang.
On Adolf Zang.
Yeah.
So was there barley being grown here? Because I know Zang was a big brewer in the Broomfield area.
But mostly what he did in Broomfield was the Percherons, the horses that drew the big tankers, you could call them, the tanks of beer.
The tanks of beer, because it's right next to the railroad.
Right here, Zang Spurs.
Zang Spurs, where the railroad is. This organization, the Crescent Grange, you said is a national organization. And a fraternal organization, what were they trying to do with the farmers each area?
Well, in the early days, I'd say 1870s, 80s, especially 90s, and especially in the West, it was like a labor union or an organization that advocated for farmers. And in fact, in those days, there were secret passwords and secret handshakes because they didn't want the railroad dudes to come in and find out, because the farmers, the railroads were given right-of-ways right through the West, which was wonderful. The government was wonderful to support that. And then industry could, just transporting products could happen. But they were gouging the farmers, or at least that's the Grange's story.
Actually, I've heard about that. Quite often the railroad, back when Denver first became a city, the railroads were doing the same thing when it came to the mining industries.
Indeed. And so we, the farmers and ranchers, had the Grange to advocate for them. That's why our 501c designation is so that we can lobby. Because that was big, real big in the beginning. Yeah.
So now we're into the local Grange. Farming is still big industry in Colorado, but it's no longer the family farms. And Broomfield being a city and county, there's much less emphasis on farming.
Well, what happened after the Second World War is that family farms started disappearing rather rapidly. And so there weren't the farm families, but there were people. And so it became a community service organization, which was not that different in emphasis, but to include everybody, city, farm, ranch, whoever.
So it was about the World War II era that membership probably started dropping off radically because you didn't have that population to draw from.
Sure. But people still wanted a community organization. It's people who have churches, they have their community, but what about all of us and people who want to be with people of other denominations or religions? Well, that's what the Grange is for.
So the Grange is nonpartisan, non-religious,
right.
open to all. It's truly a community space.
And family, so all ages. I just talked with a state officer yesterday. She lives out in Brighton. She met her husband. She's about not quite my age. She met her husband at the Grange. They had dances and so on at that time, and potlucks and, meetings and games and what all. But it was truly a family organization. And so she met her husband there, and the whole family was raised in Grange.
I was thinking of Brighton. Yeah, it's still a farming area out there. Probably was a lot longer than it was here, closer to the Front Range.
Right.
They might still have a more active chapter, or slower to drop down. Again, they're dropped down rather quickly too.
No, there are other Granges, but probably Broomfield is one of the up-and-coming, growing, yes, proudly so, Granges, or local Granges in the state. And so I guess I could say nationally, the Granges has been losing members over the last quarter, certainly, of the 20th century and currently. But I think now people are seeing the value of community, and that the Grange is someplace they could find that. They could find it for their whole family. We have family dance nights once a month.
You have a dance night here?
Yeah, with kids. The kids are running around, the music's playing, everybody's having a good time, people bring snacks. It's, I think, donation basis, and it's fun. And people can bring their family, no babysitting problems. We're here.
You're here for the community itself.
Right.
Now, right now, it's a little hard to get to. You're tucked away off of Old 120th in Broomfield, and this is the original 120th.
It is.
Before they did the one bypass, now the second bypass. But through it all, you have been here, right next to the railroad, over by the State Patrol. You've been here for 100 years. What do you look at your mission now, since you're no longer about the local farmers, you're about community, but how can you and the community put in that sense of community and build it up using the Grange? What are your plans?
Well, I can't speak for national, I can't speak for state, but I can speak for Crescent.
And that's what I'm asking.
And right here, we are fortunate to have, I don't know how many acres here, and we have a community garden that you'll be hearing from our garden director, that is so attractive to so many people. Like I say, that's why I joined. And people can see it. It's interesting. It provides food for the people who garden and and it's close to farming, original mission. But there are other things going on here. We rent it out. We have, twice a week, we have martial arts classes here.
So you have martial arts, and you rent out this building?
Right.
So if somebody wanted to, they could come to you, or go to your website, which I believe is crescentgrange.org.
Yes.
They could go to your website, find out information about renting the space. I mean, it looks like a beautiful space. And like you said, it's on a few acres, so there's even
plenty of parking.
Plenty of parking out there.
Right.
I have been to a few events in this place, and it is wonderful. The acoustics are actually pretty good too.
The acoustics are wonderful. We're having a concert coming up September 11th It's planned. It's
Yeah.
not definite yet, but.
I've been to a couple of events that are actually land-based. I think there was one on bees that was here
Oh, yes.
years ago, and I assume you have a lot more like that. So hopefully people will be able to go to the website, they'll see that, and they'll come and look at this space and see what it is. Because if I'm not mistaken, there are no employees whatsoever. It's all member-based?
Oh, member-based. I mean, our cleaning is done by a Boy Scout troop, so we contribute to their, summer camp fund. Yeah.
So everything is member-based.
Yes.
Your financing, your workload, your community garden, the cleaning, even the
Everything.
cleaning, like you said, Boy Scouts.
Oh, yes. So, and actually, we have the annual state convention for all the Granges in Colorado. It's coming up the end of September, and we submit scrapbooks and things like you would send to the state fair, cooking and sewing and things like that, photography. And we submitted books that describe our activities for the year, and with pictures, lots of nice pictures.
Well, how many Granges are there in the state? How many chapters are there, approximately? You don't need to count them all up.
You see the number after Crescent Grange, 136? Mm-hmm. So that was the 136th application to the state Grange to be a Grange.
To the state Grange, okay.
Right. Yeah, state Grange.
So there's 64 counties, so at one point there was more than one per county.
Oh, yeah, but they've come and gone.
Okay.
So remaining, I'd say maybe 40 in the state. Okay. That may be generous, I'm not sure. Active, way less than that. But like I say, we're fortunate. We've got the beautiful building, it's just pretty large for a Grange, and the parking lot and the garden. So I think we've got so many natural blessings that we just inherited.
I can understand that. So you're probably looking for more members.
Oh, always, always. Come join us, have fun. Tell us new projects that we could jump into.
So what if a family comes in there, just say they move to Broomfield, they buy a house, say it's a married couple, and they have 1 or 2 children, and they just walk through your door and say, Marcy, I want to join the Grange, why should I? What would you tell them?
Well, I would ask them what their interests are, because family, possibly garden, possibly martial arts, possibly dance, possibly coming to group concerts, activities, potlucks, or, we have pie judging, pie baking contests at least once a year, which is quite a fun thing and a big draw. I mean, who doesn't like to eat?
Can I be a judge?
Oh, I'll put you on the list. Yes.
Apple pie is my favorite.
I'll put that on my list.
Now we're going to talk with Butter Petty. She's in charge of the community garden here, one of the bigger parts of the Grange at this point in time. So how are you today, Butter?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
So you're working with the garden out there. Tell me a little bit about this community garden, how long it's been going on, and why is it a community garden?
To the best of my knowledge, our community garden has been around for about 15 years. It's unique because at this point, it's a communal garden. It's actually a shared space. So we have a large garden out there with 3 different main growing beds where all of the volunteers share the work responsibilities and also share the food.
So are these volunteers, are they members? Are they community members at large? Do you have to join the Grange, or is it just people that come in on a one-off?
There's no requirement to join the Grange as a member of the garden, but we certainly encourage all of our garden members to do so, because the more members we have inside the Grange, the better things can happen for the Grange in general. So there's no requirement that that be the case, but most of our garden members at this point are also members of the Grange. And the Grange sponsors the garden. The Grange pays for the water bill, for example, in the garden, so it's scratching each other's backs.
That brings to a very important point. The Grange pays for the water. The Grange has property taxes. Obviously, you have to have funding for this. How are some of these things funded?
Our main source of income right now are building rentals. So the building really thrives on the rentals that we bring through here. Occasionally, we're lucky enough to get some grants at this point. We're always on the lookout for new members and volunteers. And when we hold events like our open houses, or we have certain cultural events like World Music Nights, we always have the donation box open.
Got to always have that donation. Nonprofits live on their donations.
Absolutely.
So the garden, you have this communal garden, you have people come in, they work on it, they might work on it a day, they might come in a month or a week. What do you do with the produce?
Well, most of our members stay with us for the full year. Occasionally we get groups come in to volunteer for a single day, but most of our members pay a membership fee and come in. We require 2 hours of work per week, which is a lot, but they're great rewards because we've built in a lot of programming, educational programming, as well as the food that we have going on in the garden. So for example, we've had a composting class in the garden. We've had a class about grafting fruit trees. We've had a class about braiding garlic and about bees. So we try to add in value for our members. And we also are working hard in the garden to build a real sense of community. And that's part of what's unique with the communal garden. We have monthly potlucks where all of our members show up. We all enjoy weeding together. We're actually a group of people in the garden as opposed to like strangers in the night, which is what you get with individual plots, right?
Enjoy weeding together. I never thought I'd hear that expression. I have a garden. Weeding is always one of those things I've never enjoyed, but you got to do it. You got to keep after it.
Certainly a challenge. We've actually created recently a new event out in the garden called Om and Garden. Om and Garden, right. Where it's a class that's open to the public. It's a sunrise yoga class that happens in the garden that's free as long as participants stay to help weed afterwards.
Sunrise yoga in a garden. It does sound really peaceful.
I'm told, I was supervising the first one, but I'm told that the participants really enjoyed watching their toes up in the clouds.
I can understand that. That makes perfect sense. So the end of the season or during the season, right now, what are you growing right now?
Oh, right now we're at the peak of our summer crops. So we've got almost 200 chile plants, heirloom tomatoes. We have a Three Sisters garden that's thriving right now. We've got popcorn, gem corn, beans, and what we call our monster squash plant because we have just one squash plant that is nearly taking up an entire garden plot.
Is that a summer squash, a winter squash?
This one's a winter squash. We obtained the seed from Boxcar Farm or nearby Taos, New Mexico. They save a lot of heirloom seeds, and it's a landrace variety of squash, which means that the seed have been saved for many years. And it's perfect for our climate because Taos is very similar to here.
Correct.
So the squash is happy as it could possibly be out there. It's also enjoying our good soil because part of our way of taking care of our garden is using permaculture, which is not just growing vegetables, but looking at taking care of the entire plot of land. That includes the soil and all the critters that enjoy it.
Well, that's critical because Colorado is not known for its quality soil.
Exactly, and if you go out into our garden, I promise you that you'll dig up a handful of dirt that looks like soil from the Midwest. It's crumbly, it's dark, and that's why all of our plants are so healthy.
It's not a handful of clay or sand.
Exactly, exactly.
So the members and the non-members who are out there weeding, they take a lot of this produce home. Mm-hmm. I assume, like the monster plant, you're going to have too much of something. Mm-hmm. What do you do? We
have surpluses for certain, and we always want to donate to our local food pantries. Again, that goes back to our permaculture ethics, that earth care, people care, fair share. So part of that is giving back to the community. So when we have surpluses in the garden, we donate to Fish, the food pantry. We also donate to Growing Home in Westminster.
Excellent. That sounds like really good places to give extra produce.
We believe in it. And it makes our volunteers happier too, to feel that they've got a greater purpose out there. When things get challenging, when we're weeding out there and crying from the bindweed and getting sunburned, remembering that we're giving back in a really meaningful way, I think gives value to our volunteers.
Now earlier we talked about funding, and I touched on it with Marcy too. And this is a building, as we pointed out, is over 100 years old. they didn't build 100 years ago to the standards we have today. I imagine you've got some challenges renting it out to groups. As I walked in here, I noticed a sign that says restrooms downstairs.
Yeah, exactly. Being that the building is over 100 years old, our only facilities are downstairs. And this is upsetting for us too, because as a cultural and community center, we want this place to be open to everyone, enjoyed by everyone. This place is all about inclusivity. So the fact that we are not currently ADA compliant with the American Disabilities Act is a struggle for us, and we struggle occasionally to secure the rentals that we'd like to have and to have the events that we'd like to have here, because not everybody can make it into the building. So we're looking to, our next major upgrade is to have facilities upstairs and to build a ramp into the building.
Okay. As it's pointed out, this filming right here is in the upstairs. The downstairs, where we notice the bathrooms are, it's difficult to get down there. I went and looked at it myself. This is something with the ADA law, there's a lot of challenges, a lot of expenses. So as you noticed before, we had the website, crescentgrange.org. If you feel that you can donate to them, that's a really good place to start. Or you can contact Butter, or you can contact Marcy, and they'll be happy to help you with your donations.
Thank you, Sam. And the other major upgrade that we're looking at is we've got a full kitchenette downstairs. Currently, the fire marshal won't let us use it, so we're looking to renovate that as well. And if that happens, this building can really realize its full potential. We'll be able to rent out to weddings who will be able to cook their food in the kitchenette. We can go back to what the Grange used to be and teach canning classes and cooking classes. We can have pancake breakfasts. We can have community dinners. All of those things would be made possible by having those two key upgrades.
Canning class, now that would be great, because that's one of the things, people grow a lot of food, and even places like Broomfield Fish, they get a lot of food, they get surplus. Sometimes they get more than they can actually use at one time. But canning, it's an old tried and true process where you can preserve your food for quite a while.
Right, and you know, we believe strongly in our agricultural roots here. So anytime we can have something fun happen with the garden or with food or talking about farming, it's special, and it ties us back to our heritage here at the Grange.
Yeah, the Grow Local movement is still alive and well, and events and like the community garden with people out there, and organizations such as the Grange, I mean, prove that people want to be community driven, whether it's food, whether it's activities, it's critical to a community.
I think that it harkens back to the old-fashioned notion of being a good neighbor. In this age where we're all here so much of the time to have real connection, to have real sense of community, and stewardship in your community is essential and life-giving, and it builds character and it builds leadership skills.
And it's so tied in with Broomfield, because Broomfield was named after broomcorn.
Exactly.
Crop that grew here, you know, there was just fields.
And many of the founding members of the Grange were really active in the city of Broomfield's early history.
That's not surprising. But Broomfield, it's now over 50 years old. It's a growing, changing. Broomfield's known as the place in Colorado that has the most corporate headquarters. Mm-hmm. We're constantly doing that. That's a corporate thing, that's a business thing. Yet here you are, providing community, tying it to the land.
You know what I've found since joining the Grange? I've been here about 3 years now. Since joining the Grange, I've really felt that it's made Broomfield a smaller place to me, because it's really forced me to have friends outside my natural social circle, which we don't naturally do these days. So
Right.
I've got new friends and new circles that I'm in now, and suddenly I can't go any place in Broomfield without seeing somebody that I know. I'm like, hi.
And that's what We Are Broomfield is all about. We are a community. We're 34 square miles, very diverse, rapidly growing. At one point in our history, recent history, we were the 5th fastest growing city in the United States. At one point, we were the 9th fastest growing county in the United States. With growth like that, it's hard to get all the different pieces of a community to be part of the community, and having a gem like this right in our midst can help do that.
Right, and this is a place where everyone can feel welcome, and like Marcy referred to, families are welcome here. People who wouldn't normally be touched by community outreach are welcomed here. Our doors are open.
Okay, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, Butter. And what can I do? What can the people watching right now do to really help get the message out that the Grange is here, it's been here, the building's been here for 100 years, the organization's been here for 150. What can we do?
Visit our website, find out about some of our upcoming events. We've always got something going on here, and the public is always welcome. So check out our events. Come visit. We've got monthly meetings, so you can come to a monthly meeting. What we need more than anything at the Grange is greater membership. The more members we have at the Grange, the more things that are possible for this building. So we're looking for new members.
That's what every nonprofit needs, is more new members that can expand and make the organization grow.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam.
So with a 100-year-old building like this, is it a historic landmark?
Well, we just recently received from the city of Broomfield, we're so grateful, so thrilled, that we got landmark designation. And I have to tell you, the fabulous thing about this is one of our newer members, a couple years, is Michelle Pearson, a teacher, an award-winning teacher, and she had her students, her middle and high school students, write the grant, write the application.
Oh.
I believe she said it's the first landmark designation in the state written by students.
Written by students. Nice.
With guidance, of course, but I mean,
Right.
and they are thrilled and in love with the Grange too. I mean, to know it is to love it. And you should see our old scrapbooks from the 30s, the 40s, you know, it's very fun.
Okay, so that is something that, you know, at some point I will want to look through all those scrapbooks. Because of that, with the scrapbooks, do you ever do anything with the Broomfield Depot Museum?
Oh, yes, yes. In the summer, for 6 months, usually 6 months of every year, they come and bring a speaker on some historical topic and do a talk. And those talks draw 60 or more people. It's pretty well known and well established, a variety of topics, a variety of speakers, and history. I love history.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you have to love history if you're involved in an organization like this.
yeah.
So Marcy, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about the Grange. Is there anything else that you want people to know?
Well, come and look at us online, in person. Almost every day you can find somebody working in the garden.
Excellent.
So you can, you know, but we have many things going on, and they're usually on Facebook at least, if not more places.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
And
you, Sam.